In this video, we're going to be replacing the lower control arm on your front passenger side of this 2005 Honda Element. To remove our wheel, it's going to be a 19mm socket. I'll take our wheel off now. Now underneath on our ball joint and our lower control arm here, it's going to be another point holding in our knuckle. We have a cotter pin on our castle nut. So our cotter pin typically is folded over. This one's straight out. So at this point, we're just going to try and force it back through and pull it out. And this is one of the parts. This cotter pin here will definitely be replacing. Anytime you pull one out, you definitely want to replace it with a new one. Now we can take our castle nut off of our ball joint, which is going to be a 19mm. And again, we're going to use our impact. And there's our castle nut. Now on our castle nut, we're actually going to take it and flip it backwards, spin it back on a couple of threads, and now what we can do is take a hammer and hit the ball joint from the bottom on the castle nut, not doing any damage to the ball joint itself. So if we follow our ball joint back on the rearward side, we'll see our links. We're going to remove the bottom nut. It's going to be a 14mm. All right, so what's happening, which I expected to happen, is the actual center is spinning. So we're going to have to grab it from the back with a wrench. So on our lower link, I'm going to have an 18 in behind to stop the center from spinning, and a 14 on our impact on front. And now from here, we're just going to pull our link out of the control arm as much as we can. Just want to make it easy to start maneuvering the control arm. Now we move that up and out of the way. And if we follow our ball joint down to the front, on the bottom, you're going to see a 19mm bolt. Go ahead and take that out. With a lot of extensions and a 19mm socket on an impact swivel, you are able to get to the back control arm bolt running forwards and rearwards in the vehicle. You can now get on it with an impact. And remove that bolt. Now from here, you notice your control arm is pretty loose. What we're going to do is go to the rear bushing section with a pry bar. Just going to pry that and rotate it out the best we can. Now you have to pull down on your control arm. Find different pivot points. We'll get it to work out. Now from here, we'll work on our front bushing, which sometimes will work right out if you twist and walk it and pull at the same time. There it is. Okay, so we're going to start in the back corner. Actually, the furthest and forward most bushing. I'm going to try and just align that with the hole. We're going to take our bolt and send it all the way through. And if we can, spin 1 or 2 threads. Okay. And now from here, we're going to grab our control arm, pull it straight down and underneath our knuckle, and we're going to line up the rear bushing. The rearward bushing is going to, the whole thing wants to come to the rear a little bit. So what we're going to do is use a small pry bar. Pull that forward. Now we can align our ball joint and our control arm. And we're going to thread on our castle nut. Okay, now we can start installing our back bolt and our front bolt. All right, now that we have our back bushing and our control arm lined up, we can go ahead and put in our bolt. We're just going to snug this down. We're going to tighten everything on the lower control arm under load. So right here, we're just going to get these bolts snugged up. Okay. So now we can put our link back in our control arm. Things might be a little misaligned here because you do have new bushings and everything is slightly loose. So just gonna align our link end here. There we go. Put our bolt on. Or our nut rather. All right, so we went ahead and just sprayed this area with brake parts cleaner just to get rid of the residue on the threads. And we can put our nut on. All right, we'll come back and snug that up. All right, a 14 millimeter, we can snug this up. We're not going to worry about tightening it down at this moment, so we're not going to worry about backing this up. We're just going to snug this up. All right, we'll just put a little extra into it. Back it off a touch. You're going to want to tighten everything down to their full torques under load on the suspension. So we'll go ahead and put a pull jack under here now, raise it up to simulate a load, and then we will torque our control arm bolts down. So our 2 back bolts for our control arm are going to be torqued down to 60 foot-pounds under a load. So we have our pull jack in. We'll go ahead and tighten these down now. All right. Now for the bottom one, we don't need the extension or the swivel. Okay, all right, so our ball joint, castle nut, is going to be torqued down to 50 foot-pounds. And we're going to slowly creep up on this because we need to make sure that the cutouts on our castle nut line up to the hole in the ball joint stud so we can put our cotter pin through. Okay, now we can take our cotter pin, feed it straight through. Separate that, bend it back on itself. Now from here, we can move back to our link. So now our link connected to our control arm is going to get torqued down to 29 foot-pounds. We're also going to use an 18 millimeter on the back to stop the center from spinning, and a 14 millimeter to torque it down. Okay, so now that we've tightened down our control arm under suspension load, we can now lower our pull jack. And so now we can install our wheel. Sometimes when I'm having an issue centering or getting the wheel on nice and flat, I like to do a top nice and tight, push in, do a bottom nice and tight, and then rock back and forth till I get those two nice and tight. And that usually helps me get a wheel nice and flat. All right, now we can do the other ones. Come in here with our 19 millimeter. Just snug these up. All right, now to torque these down, we're going to have to put the vehicle on the ground so the wheel doesn't spin. Now that our vehicle's on the ground, we're going to torque our lug nuts down to 80 foot-pounds. We're going to do it in a crisscross pattern. And then sometimes, if you really feel the need to, you can run around a second time just to make sure. And that's it.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.